All right, folks, we're on another episode of The True Hot Seat with Jesse Morford Garcia and myself, Jaime, and we've got our guest, Mia Perez. Maria, give us an insight of who you are and what do you do?
It's running.
Well, hello, my name is Mia Perez. I am out in the Bay Area and, a little bit of entertainment is what I do. TV host, radio host, actress, model for Stars Agency. But my passion is to help people and help women. So I'm the founder of Viva Women's Community, Viva Women's Empowerment Community. And my goal is just to empower people and to get people to dig deep and look at life's real issues and get past the face we have to put on for people to make life look like it's great when it's not. So I'm here contributing to a positive conversation today.
Awesome. And some of the issues that you guys deal with within your organization, can you give us a couple of those?
Well, I mean, the basic ones are always, of course, divorce, single moms, but then we have everything from women just dealing with life obstacles, and it could be anything really. I make it very clear that it's not, even though my background is that I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, domestic violence, that is not my target, let's say, to hit women that come from that background. If anything, it's just women that need support, emotional support, empowerment, inspire them, to give them hope, and then to find a community. Because there is people that have a lot of friends, we have family, we have friends, we have coworkers, but seldom are we able to really just bare our naked souls and not get judgment for it. So we want to create that safe space for women to come together and have that.
I mean,
So is this a,
go ahead, Jesse.
sorry about that. Is this a online community right now that you've started?
It is. It's a Facebook page right now that I have. Is Viva Women's Empowerment Community. But what it started as, honestly, was just because when I went through my own hardships in my life, I didn't have that. And I promised myself, I'm a faith believer, I promised God that if I was able to get out of that, then I would build what I yearned for at that point. And like I said, I was surrounded by friends and family, but they wouldn't understand where I was coming from. So I ended up starting it July 2017, but it was just, for me, my purpose was just maybe having a little potluck, girlfriends coming together, bring their friends, and let's just talk about life and what we're going through and what tools are you using to get over those obstacles. And then it just developed into what it is now.
Okay, and Mia, how long did you endure what you went through?
Well, long story short, I was married in 2006. I finally was able to break free 2014. However, I didn't really know. I mean, we could talk another day about domestic violence, but I had actually no idea until I left in 2014 that I was actually in an abusive marriage. So it lasted that long, and it was every single, there's a cycle of abuse, right? There's all these spectrum of different types of abuse. I suffered every single one of them. But again, I didn't know of it till afterwards. So it's kind of hard to say, how long did you endure it? Well, you endure while you're in it, and then it's the aftermath, the consequences of it, healing.
Okay. So this brings up another good point here. And we have never met. You're in the Bay Area, and one of the things that struck our attention, or Jaime's attention, was that you posted a picture about, society right now where moms are thirsty for attention. Explain a little bit more about that.
Wait. Thirsty. Hold on.
I said it correctly.
You did say it correctly, but just for the audience to understand,
Right.
She put thirsty in there. It's not his word, so don't get mad at Jesse.
Right.
I'm going to put the post up right now, but I'm going to go ahead and read it if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because pretty much, if guys, so you can see this, there's a female, obviously she's a mom because there's a child within the corridor, and she's saying mom, okay? And she's pretty much naked, and she's taking a selfie. So her caption was, rude awakening to the reality of society that we live in these days. Young ladies are so thirsty, craving attention at any cost, and their little ones standing by. Makes me wonder how much we can attribute to daddy issues of not, if not, having the love, protection, the presence of a father growing up, and the now that they need it from men and social media. God help them and God help us all. So can you give us a little bit of insight of like why you posted that and where that was coming from?
Well, that, I'll tell you right now, sparked a lot of controversy. I got a lot of private messages about that.
I bet you did.
Yeah, especially because being the founder of Viva Women and me standing up for women and, you know, our rights and empowerment, there's a feminism side to it, right? Feminist side to it. And so I got some people giving me heat on that side. But in reality, the reason why I posted that was when I was scrolling through my social media, and I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, I actually saw it and I felt sad. It caused a lot of emotions within me, but I think what it triggered most was sadness, because not only do I encounter that right now with the women that I work with, where they ended up getting into really terrible relationships because when they were growing up, they didn't have a male figure, or even if the father was present in the home, maybe didn't give them the affection, the love that they needed. So now, as they grow up, they yearn for it from a man. They're willing to take it at any cost. And that's what causes them to get into those relationships. So that part of me is sad, because I've seen women end up in situations because of that. And the attention could be either that selfie, the naked selfie, or just willing to take abuse and whatever kind of treatment from a man, as long as you have a man in your life. That. The other thing also is seeing my daughter being 11 years old now, and she's been for a long time wanting to get on social media, and I don't allow her to. But on a personal note, I have to see the effects as well, that through this whole ordeal that's happened with court and her father not being really present. Like right now, as of today, it's been 7 months since he's seen her. And that causes a lot of emotions within her. So I've known this for a long time, that if a little girl doesn't have the affection, the attention, the love of her father there, she's going to look for it somewhere else. So that made me already think of like, oh my goodness, that could be my daughter later, because I see it so much right now, even in social media, young girls, Instagram, posting photos of themselves, very revealing photos, thinking that by showing their skin, by objectifying themselves, it's like they crave so much attention that it's at the cost of likes, of, you know, hearts and whatever. And it saddened me. It saddened me. That's why I posted it.
Did you come from a stable household?
I did. I actually came from a stable household. My mother and father are still together. My father has always been very present in our lives, a definite provider, protector of the home. But the one thing that I can tell you is that him having worked so much, working, all I can remember is maybe three jobs at one time, not being physically present in the home, maybe in a way did hinder me, I guess, from me opening my eyes. And okay, and by that I mean this. I think when I saw my dad be at home, being so protective and so loving and always being hardworking and being out there, I thought that's what a man is. So I went out into the world thinking that's how men are. And then it's a rude awakening, because they're not that way. So you should have, you would expect for me to come out of this home, grow up and marry a person who would have treated me well. And that didn't happen necessarily. So, you know, statistics would show sometimes that women repeat the cycle because they see it at home and then they end up in that. But that wasn't my case at all. So, you know, it's not really.
So Mia, you know, being a single mom and having your daughter, you know, come of age, what techniques are you putting in place to maybe offset that father figure that, you know, she could be lacking later on? Like, I mean, would you be getting her in tune more with, you know, with grandpa now, you know, as a figure for her?
Right. That is one of my pillars here at home. My parents actually, when I broke away in 2014, I had my parents actually move in with me into my home, and finally I had him move out, meaning my ex-husband. So my parents actually have helped me raise my daughter. My dad has been a pillar of strength in our home. So in that way, I'm very blessed because my daughter does have the protection and the love of grandpa. Now, you know, it's kind of hard to say, can a grandfather really fill the shoes of a father? Perhaps, but at the end of the day, they still want their daddy. Even if their daddy is a screw up, they love their daddy, you know, as well as their mom. They love mom, they love dad, because that's your blood. Your blood calls out for, you know, your father and your mother at the end of the day.
Now, you said you got some flack from the females, because I noticed on the post, it was males that got a little upset or a little testy, which I didn't get upset. I didn't, it just intrigued me. And I had this conversation, it actually forced a conversation with me and my mom when we were having lunch. And I said to her, you know, I go, Mom, there was this post that came up, and I go, as a male, I'm built to look at women, you know, unless you're gay and you like to look at guys, that's your own thing. But, you know, I go, so I see these pictures, I look at them, and at first glance, I'm like, yes. And then after a while, I'm just like, this is getting too much, you know? And my mom's response was, you know what, Jaime? She's like, whether it's a girl, you know, with her boobs hanging out or not, she's like, we as females are going to look too. It's like, it's just one of those things that you cannot not look at. And I go, okay, good. It's just not me, because I don't want to feel like I'm some type of pervert for being a man. You know what I mean? And I really hate that. But yeah, so I just thought it was interesting. But you said you ended up getting some flack from the females.
I did, and that's why, like I said, I have to be careful on how I address that, because then they come at me like, well, you know, we're free to express ourselves, you know, in any way, right? And part of that is our physical expression of ourselves. And I'm the one to say how you represent yourself.
Right.
You know, I'm not here to set a moral code or a moral compass for anyone. Where I think we fail as women is because almost these same women that put these posts out there where they're very revealing, they're the ones that also complain about how men treat them, or how we are treated by men. Let me just include myself, because I don't want to get any flack. How we are treated by men. But at the same time, how are we really portraying ourselves, right? You want to put yourself out there half naked, showing everything, or, you know, okay, like for instance, I'm going to tell you something. I even have to be very careful. Your mom's right, because women also notice. I myself get messages sometimes from friends that will be, or with people that tell me, oh, make sure when you do your Facebook Live, don't put your camera like this. Make sure it's aimed a little bit higher, because when you go like this, all I see is your boobs. Now, I'm like, I mean, unless I'm put it here, all I can see is my face, you know, but then if I post like this, then guess what? Then I get comments of, oh, you're trying to show your cleavage because it shows, you know, the division here, right? Or the line here. So it's like, you know, you lose no matter what. However, women are critical of each other, as it is, but when you really think about it, why are we posting those photos? Mm-hmm. Like, why do we do it? You know,
attention.
For attention.
Well, not even attention. Would you say you're establishing a brand?
It's your personal brand.
It can, but a lot of these girls aren't models or actresses or in any which way in entertainment. I could see where that's coming from, you know, but some of them are not, and they still put it out there like, okay, but what brand are you representing?
Right. I mean, I you know, I've done this several times where I've seen females, you know, do post, you know, they're provocative. Okay, they're in their bedroom. Now they got this, you know, very sexy, you know, outfit on. Then they're over in a public restroom, or they're in a, you know, a car, you know, and after a while, it's the same 3 locations, different, you know, same pose maybe, or whatever it is. And after a while, I'm like, do you have any other type of life? Do you
Yeah.
do anything else besides this? You know, and I've literally deleted females because of that fact. It's like, I don't want to see that over and over again. It's like, give me something of your life, of who you are. This is probably a small part of who you are, but you're doing it way too much and making it too much of your life. And I think that's where I draw the line. I'm like, okay, yeah, cut it, delete.
Right. Well, I think when it comes to that, they're seeking not just attention, but validation, you know, where it's like, okay, if you got these many, like I've seen people post photos and then all of a sudden, maybe they didn't look that cute in it and then they delete the photo. Where it's like, then they post this other one and they got like 200 or 300 likes and then they keep that one, where it's almost like your validation is going to come from that. And it's a very sad thing that that's our measure. That's what we're measuring. That's the meter that, you know, we're going by. That's pretty sad. But what I do have to stress is this. I'm not going to say that us women at, whether it's our 30s, 40s, 50s, we're a lost cause already. I'm not going to say that. But you know what? We've made our decisions. Whatever you want to do with your body and you want to put it out there and you want to suffer the consequences, because you have to admit, employers look at social media, they see how you put yourself out there, and brands, if they're going to look for you, they also want to see how you put yourself out there. So even men like you know, you're saying, okay, so if you are interested in this girl, you go to social media and all she is about showing this and, you know, all this stuff, then you might not, other men it might be encouraged, you know, they might be encouraged by it. But at the end of the day, my concern is this: what are we teaching the younger generation? Because whatever a woman wants to do with her body right now, and you want to put yourself out there, okay. But what I have an issue with is when those women are posting their photos, and I've seen it where their little girls are in the background or their sons in the background, and they got these little shorts with their butts hanging out, and they're twerking, videos of them twerking, and their kids are in the back. Wow. And then they have their kids twerking. I've seen like women putting their daughters, maybe 5, 6, 7, 9 years old, and they're sitting there twerking and doing all these things, which, you know, maybe they think it's funny, they think it's cute, but I think we're all at the age when we can probably rewind, and if not, I'm so sorry. But if we think back to about 20 years ago, you remember the horrific murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And she was this little girl, right? She was about 5, 6 years old in a beauty pageant. And it was like, oh my goodness, you know, people were in an uproar because of the suggestive clothing, skimpy little, you know, outfits that they put on her, and her routine seemed very suggestive in nature in her dancing. That was at a 6-year-old.
Right.
Right after that, they had, I think it was Toddlers and Tiaras. They had a show. After that, then it started becoming normal, right? But now you look at social media, it's out there, and it's almost like a normal thing. It shouldn't be. But, and again, I'm not here to establish anybody's moral code or moral compass or however you want to be. But it does make you think, what kind of world our kids going to grow up in when their self-esteem is measured by how many likes and how many hearts they get, or how much of themselves do they expose to make sure they're liked. So that's one of the things that concerns me.
So Mia, right now, when it comes down to your professional career, when it comes down to your style, your brand, and also being a mom, how is it that you distinguish the three when it comes down to like parenting? And I'm going to say this because, you know, growing up, parents, you know, split up. And I remember my mom always saying, well, you know what? No, I'm just going to concentrate on you kids. Like, when do you not only just concentrate on us, the kids, but also on like you as the individual, so that you don't lose any time from having to rewrite, you know, your next chapter when it comes to like a relationship?
Right. Well, everybody everybody who's experienced divorce and being a single parent, you do go through that period. I think most people become very conscious of like, okay, how much, and then you almost feel guilty because you feel like, well, that parent is not around, or because now I can't give them a home where mommy and daddy are. I need to give more of myself to that child or the children. And I have done that. I have completely submerged myself in just being a mom. Now, have I dated? Yes. And I've learned also how to, because of the things I've been through, I've had to step away fast enough, because there's a lot of things that a lot of factors I have to take into consideration as far as being a single parent. For instance, even when I tried to date a man who's never had kids, it's difficult because they don't understand the commitment that you have to your children and that they need you and you have to be there for them. Or you might have to change plans because you might have dinner plans and all of a sudden your child's sick, where they can be frustrated by that. Also, I think for me, more than anything, outside of trying to just be a parent right now, I have really taken on the task and my mission and my purpose, which has been to establish Viva and to give women that place. So it hardly gives me time to actually, put into a relationship. And I have to be very honest with men when they're interested in pursuing anything like that, because I know for myself, it's going to take a really, really understanding and patient man who knows my purpose, understands my heart for what I do in, as far as, with my work with women and as a mother. So it's difficult as a single parent, but
and I'm sorry that I went there with that type of question, and I'm telling you the reason why is now that your child is getting a little older, to have a stranger come in, to
yeah.
And do you know where I'm going with this? Having a young girl, that always scares me. I mean, I have a daughter. She's 8 years old. Not she's 9. She's 9 now. But that is also a deterrent, where moms will not want to rush into a relationship due to the fact that they're making sure that their children remain safe in today's society. Does that make a valid point?
It makes a very valid point. What I do have to tell you is that sadly, when it comes to women that come from a cycle of abuse and then they become single parents, most likely they repeat the cycle. And when I would go to my, because I've been through a lot of therapy, it was, literally when I had him leave, it was 2014. And when I found out I was in a domestic abuse relationship, I was actually under forced therapy, one-on-one twice a week, and a group therapy once a week because of how bad I was and my triggers and my trauma. So during that group is when I found out that these women, they're still so thirsty for affection, for attention, for love. They'll go back to either their abuser or they go into a new relationship. And then the sad thing about it is that they end up getting their kids taken away because their kids witness now the abuse. And I've seen that. I see women still to this day that I know that are fighting to get their kids back because sadly they didn't know how to just separate. This is my love for this man. This is my love for these kids. And this isn't healthy. So I need to break away and focus on, my kids have to come first. So some women do, some women don't.
Okay. So what's going to be coming up in the near future for Viva? What is your goal? What is your vision?
Well, like I had explained to you, when I first started it, I thought it was just going to be a time that my girlfriends can come together, do like a little potluck, everybody brings food over, let's just be vulnerable and open up about our struggles, and then talk about what are we doing to get through them, or if we did. So, excuse me. That was what I thought. That was July 2017. So I had 4 events up to this point, and what it evolved into was basically the last one was about over 100 women, and I bring in speakers, not just who have overcome their struggles, because a lot of people have went through things and they overcome them, but what are you using now from your story to help another woman or to empower other women? So that's how I do my events for Viva. I'm in the process of becoming a nonprofit because none of this is for profit. I've actually put a lot of money into making these events happen. And I don't regret it because I know you have to build it and then they'll come. So next would be that it would be becoming a nonprofit, continue with our events, but more than anything is in between those events when the women reach out to me, because after they know me or they know what we do, it's building those resources. And I have a lot of work ahead of me because I need to know per county, per city. It's going to end up being per state, because I have a lot of women reach out to me even out of state that go through things. They're like, hey, who can I talk to? Who can I reach out to? And you would think that they would just automatically look for a therapist, a counselor, or somebody. But, we can never underestimate the power and the influence and the impact that we have on social media, because anything I've ever done has been just social media based. And this is how people have reached out to me, and that's how I'm able to help people. So that's one thing. Another thing is I am a speaker. I had to stop for 3 years because of court things where literally the judge told me that I was not allowed to say that I was a domestic survivor, domestic abuse or violence survivor, and which obviously First Amendment, doesn't give a right to tell me that, right?
Did that hold up, or did you fight that?
No, I actually, because again, the divorce has been so nasty for 4 years, I just kind of quieted down, because when that same judge has custody over your daughter and everything that's involved, I just figured I'll just keep quiet. She's not liking me to speak up, and I stopped. But
wow, and that was a female judge, is what it sounded like.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very sad, because when you're going through that period of domestic violence, you don't have a voice, and then you come out, and then you realize you have a voice, and you have this empowerment, and then next thing you know, you experience the court system abuse. Now it's systematic abuse, where your abuser is using the court now to continue abusing you, and strip me away from my voice where I couldn't. I mean, I have my Viva events, but I wasn't very vocal about my story, where now, stepping into 2019, I am going to. So I have more things to come. I'm also a co-author of a book called Lead with Success, where I contributed a chapter, and I shared a little bit of my story. But so I have 2019. You guys caught me at a great time, because I wouldn't have shared anything last year, because I'm very careful of what I put out there. But
so now when women come to these events, what can they expect? Like what kind of resources can they utilize? The speakers, I mean, give a little insight.
I have speakers from, so I give them some that are inspirational. So I had Joanna Hernandez, that is actually out in LA in, I forgot the name of the city, but she's a designer, couture designer, Latina. And she was already on one path of her career. She just all of a sudden decided, you know what? No, I've always wanted to be a designer, and that's what I'm going to do. And boom. And now she's like Paris Fashion Week. I mean, everywhere. She's everywhere. So that for me was like, okay, I don't care how old you are, you're always free to start dreaming. I mean, to keep dreaming and to pursue your dreams. Then I have women who have survived certain things. I had a woman who's a founder of Love Never Fails, and they help rescue women that are in human sex trafficking. So I had her come and tell her story of why she got involved and how she works with the women. I have actually the next one coming up in fall. There's this woman that I follow on Instagram, and I love, love, love her poetry. So I reached out to her, and she met with me. Actually, she came to the Bay Area, she met with me, and she's going to speak in the fall. And she's actually a psychologist, and her poetry speaks so much about healing. And I asked her, like, why do you talk so much about that? And she opened up, and it really touched my heart, because she says she always wanted to be a writer. Her parents, she's Russian, so they didn't allow that. And then she became a psychologist. And then once her father passed away, that was when she broke free, and she was able to write her first book, which was actually dedicated to her father, for her father never allowing her to have a voice. So I pick women from different backgrounds that are doing different things, and they come and they share their stories. Resources, they're able to connect. More than anything, the resources are one thing, but more than anything, it's the community, it's the sisterhood that they find. That, thank God, up to now, the environment we've set up, as soon as, you know, the women come in, they always tell me like, oh my gosh, I feel the love in the room. I don't have one woman looking at me up and down. You know, right there, there's no, Viva has never been. In the beginning, they told me, oh, that's great, you're a Latina, you're going to do this thing for Latinas. But I was like, my story is not about being a Latina. My story comes from being divorced, from fighting for my dreams, and being an entrepreneur, losing everything. How do you get back up? How do you start all over? The court system, starting being a single mom, and then starting a foundation for women. So it says so much that Viva Women is not based on any nationality, age. I have women bringing their teenage daughters from 16, 17 years old to women in their 60s. And every nationality you could think of, every walk of life. I have women who are CEOs, you know, of companies, to women who are stay-home moms. And, you know, there's no difference. When they're there, everybody's loved just the same. And we encourage them to connect, to look for each other in all of that.
Now, if Jesse and I wanted to go, could we go?
You guys aren't the first ones to ask, let me tell you.
I'd be interested, believe me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already intrigued, you know, so, I mean, it sounds very, you know, like empowering, so.
What we do at Viva is, it is closed off to just women because, yes.
Did you see that? Hold on, I need to get on camera here. Got it.
And let me tell you, one thing that one of the speakers came in, actually her name is Hazina Espada. She's with Espada PR in LA. She's public relations. And she came, she was one of the speakers, and she said, I have never been in a room where so many women look so beautiful, so elegant, and they didn't even have to get ready for a man. And that's what I go all out. Let me tell you, I'll send you guys a video later. I go all out in my events. The food is amazing. The decor is beautiful. When the women come, I want them to feel so special, so beautiful, that if your man has never done that for you, you don't need a man. Like your own sisters, you yourself can create something where you feel so special. And they do, they dress up, they get their makeup done. I have a photographer, I have a videographer. I mean, I make them feel like celebrities that night and the most beautiful queens ever. So that's what we want them to take away, is that feeling, to walk away with that. And so no men allowed. The only men actually I go to photographer, the videographer, and the caterer.
Well, Jaime, you do the video. I'll hold the microphone.
There you go. We're in.
Give me the charolas. Like, what am I passing out? I'm ready.
We figured it out.
I had a friend ask me, he's like, can I just stand outside of the bathroom and just hand them their towels? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, no, and that's, and no, and I can appreciate that, Mia. You know, and this is the thing where, like I said, and I'm going to tell you just, you know, on another personal level,
right.
You know, your daughter was able to see and hear things. Yes.
Yes.
And this is the part where it's like the empowering the women, like women, you have the power and you have overcame so much that always keep in mind, just like the same way that there's that little kid standing behind mom twerking, there's also that little kid that also endured some of that pain that you went through, you know, and that pain could have been from a son.
Yeah.
That pain could have been from a daughter. And that's the part, you know, seeing a woman, you know, accomplish these things and show that power is just, you know, it's amazing. So thank you for sharing your story.
You know what? I really think, you know, it's like, I don't have kids, but I know Jesse does. And, you know, you could hear his heartfelt, you know, words. I really would want you to dig deep and somehow figure out how you can connect with fathers that have daughters. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you've already piqued my interest and I'm intrigued by it. And I can only imagine what, you know, the thoughts that are going through Jesse's right now and how he can help his daughter and empower her as well.
Yes.
So you should put something together.
I will definitely look into that. I do have a lot of men that reach out to me because I've always shared my story of my struggles and my story. And actually a lot of people kind of went through it with me, my journey for the past 3 years. There'd be times that I'd be doing Facebook Lives and I would tell them I had such a hard day in court and I wouldn't share too much, but there's times I cried. I literally would cry on Facebook because I don't want people, that's one thing, and we talked about this earlier. I don't like when people put themselves out there and all they put is their peaks. They're they glorify everything, and it's like I was that woman that would actually look at that and be like, dang, I don't have a man to bring me roses. I don't have I got to a point, my story actually goes, I mean, my story is very deep, but I got to a point where after losing everything, I had to be on county assistance. So here I was, that woman who gave women jobs, and now here I am outside sitting in my car for 20 minutes, bawling my eyes out, because how could I end up being that woman who now can't even feed her own daughter? So I have men reach out to me through their own hardships, and they always say, why don't you do something so that we can come too? But, I feel my calling is more with women, but what you said has been through my mind before, because I think that men sometimes don't, not that they're not there for their daughters, but they just don't understand the impact or the depth of the impact that a father being present, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, being involved, cheering them on, being their hero, it will just save them from a lot of heartache, and it'll give them a measuring stick. At that point, it will give them something to measure another man against and be like, my daddy didn't treat me like that, so things like that. So,
oh yeah, no, and it's funny you say that because my daughter eats filet mignon. My daughter goes out to Disney World,
yeah.
the resorts, and that's where I'm like, you see, this is daddy, babe. This is daddy, babe. So I'm like, hey, so just let you know, whoever's gonna stand next to you, this is daddy level.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to teach them like that when they're young, and let them know, like, hey, this is what a man should do for a woman all the time. So when you grow up, a man should open the door for you. A man should do this. A man should do that, and they're gonna grow up thinking that that's their normalcy.
The norm.
That's a normal standard.
That's the norm.
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, what's funny is I in dating, it's interesting to hear women when they tell me that they're not used to a man opening a door or doing those cordial things. I'm going, are you serious? I mean, where did these guys grow up at? I'm like, what generation are they from? I'm like, I just don't understand that.
Let me tell you something. I have actually done this twice where they asked me out, 2 different people, and I stood outside the door. And they went and sat, and they're looking at me, and they're just like, what's wrong? I said, are you going to open my door? And they're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? I'm like, I'm not getting in your car until you open the door. It's like, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I have to educate you. I have to teach you how to be a man. But sadly, this is a whole different conversation. I had a Facebook Live about that. And us women, it's our fault because we already have lowered our standards so much that we're like, well, whatever. So men are so used to being around women that are like that their standards are lower. And, that's what
it's kind of sad. It's weird.
It's time to step it up, men. It's time to step it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So can I just say one thing? What I want to walk away, having said, this whole conversation, which I really appreciate you guys inviting me, number one, to contribute in this conversation and to, put our ideas together, our experience, our ideas, and all of that. And I think more than anything, as a parent, I could say as a parent, because like I said, for women to put themselves out there, that's kind of their choice. They can do what they want with their image. But as a parent, we have to be very careful. And I'm just going to tie it back to one of my speakers that came from Love Never Fails. Her name is Vanessa Russell. And, they're taking these girls at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And they're not taking them by just like kidnapping them. They're not taking them by, just before how you would be like thinking that they would kidnap children. No, it's because of what.
Wait. What do you mean by taking?
Are you talking about like sex trafficking?
Yes.
Oh.
And it has a lot to do with the photos that they even post and how they're putting themselves out there in social media.
Wait. So these guys or whoever these predators are, they're looking at little girls' posts and what they're doing, and then that's how they're stalking them?
Yes.
Oh.
There's sexual predators out there that's how they're getting to these little girls. And that's why, like I said, when I saw that, it just triggered, because like if they see mommy doing that, then that's normal to them. They're going to put themselves out there. And that's really, I mean, I was actually researching, and there's apps that they have, and these girls as young as 8, 9, 10 years old have these conversations with people, and it's called, I don't know, I forgot the name. I have it down, but literally where they literally, no, it's not that, but literally where they exchange, like they'll send suggestive pictures, provocative pictures, even nudes, and I'm talking little girls. And that's how these men start, and we're going to say dating them, because that's what they're doing in their mind. They're already like, starting to talk to them or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's how they're getting to them. These girls that disappear, they're not running away. They're not running away with their boyfriends. Before, when the little girl ran away, she ran away to her neighbor's house, to her best friend's house, or with her boyfriend. Why are they disappearing?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to just alert everybody to, where our social media impact can be very positive when you put yourself out there, your stories and everything. But if you put yourself out there in a negative way, then the implications aren't just for you, but what are you teaching the younger generation, where they can be targets of cyberbullying because the photos that they took suggestive to their boyfriend, that boyfriend passes it out non-consensually, and then next thing you know, the whole school has them, and then the girl goes in, it leads to suicide. She kills herself. There's so many stories. So again, my post was because of that.
Right.
Because of what's happening to the little girls that.
Yeah, there's obviously a whole nother layer that you've touched on right here.
Yeah, no, and yeah, you brought up a great question. So I learned from people that have already experienced something already, or somewhere where I know I'm headed. So your daughter is 11, my daughter's 9. Mm-hmm. What's a good age for a phone?
That's touchy, because because of the court system, my daughter had to have a phone because to communicate with her dad. But I was very careful in monitoring that. Now, if it was up to me, she wouldn't have a phone until after 13 years old, at least. I mean, even on your apps, it says you have to be over 13. But during that time, do I let her once in a while get on my phone? Yes. But I monitor everything she does, and I teach her already how to be responsible. The conversations I'm having with you about the girls getting, picked up for human sex trafficking and everything, those are the conversations I have with my daughter already at 11. Because whether you teach them or not, they're going to go either be affected by it or learn from it in a different way.
Right.
So, would you say, Mia, that you've done a really good job to preserve her innocence? And the reason I'm saying this is because, my baby, and yes, she, is my baby, but it's so weird because she comes home and she's still naive, which I'm like perfectly great that she's not at like where other girls her age, because she comes home and she's like, Daddy, da-da. And I'm like, where did you?
But I think that's going to be dependent upon the person, as, even as a male, your level of like, okay, now you're starting to realize, okay, I like girls. Ooh, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes people are late bloomers, sometimes are early bloomers,
But as far as, there is, puberty is one thing, but the innocence that I understand what you're saying, Jesse, the innocence of it is something different, because, for instance, if I were to say the innocence of her realizing the abuse, I tried for a very long time to shelter her as much as I could. Unfortunately, there was things that she saw or she heard. Moving forward, after that happened, then it becomes like the core. She was exposed to certain things. Now, if it comes to just like life things that I am in control of because of things that happen in social media and things like that, I feel like I do a good job because my parents help me. Again, when I'm not home, they're monitoring her. They're on her to make sure, what are you looking at, or what's on YouTube? And I'll go down her history. She knows she better not erase the history on YouTube because I see what's on there. I see what that. I'm a very I'm a mom who's she knows not to mess with me, put it this way. I'm Mexican. I don't do the chocolate thing, but.
No chocolate, what? What about a wooden spoon?
But she knows I do correct her. So you can only shelter your kids so much because they are going to be exposed to things at school. But the one thing I can say is if you prepare them when they're at home for what they're going to hear or see from their friends from school. Right now, my daughter's like already asking me, here, send this because they're going to teach me about sex education, you know, in the video. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to see the video first. I'm that kind of mom where I'm like, I made an appointment. I want to see the video with her teacher. And once I think, because, you know, you can approve it or they can sit out. So I just want to see what they're showing her. But of course, I went through the whole thing already with her. And I said, this is how it is. And I explained it in
like very medical terms.
I'm sorry?
Like medical terms or something, you know, like
medical terms, but the whole sex conversation came like at what? She's 9 years old, where she was like, oh, they're asking me, you know, about this or that in school and about babies and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're 9. I'm talking about babies right now, you know? But I was very careful in how I explained it to her, and I did tell her, you know, one day, you know, you're gonna meet somebody, but for me, I tell her, everybody believes differently, but for me, I believe that it should be when it's someone that you're gonna marry, you're gonna have a home with, because let's just say, I said, just remember, when you have sex with somebody, it's not just physically, you know, because she asked me how, and I'm like, I had to tell her, I'm like, you know, a man has this part, a woman has this part, and then they come together and it fits, and I had to explain it, you know. And then I said, but you know what? Besides an exchange, that they have a physical exchange, that intimacy, I said, there's an emotional attachment that you're going to have to that person. Not necessarily is the guy going to have that attachment to you, but the woman 99% does. I said, so, you know, when you're ready, just think about it. When you're at that age, you know, are you going to want to be sleeping with all these men or these people that just because they like you or whatever, and then your heart's going to be broken every time, because guess what? They're not ready to give you a family. They're not ready to have a job and support you. And then they walk away and then they break your heart. So that's how I explained it to her. She's like, yeah, I don't want my heart to be broken. Don't have sex.
Mia, quick question. Does your daughter speak Spanish?
As a matter of fact, we only speak Spanish. I've never spoken to her in English, and that's only because my parents, when I had her, they said, you better start speaking to her in Spanish. And I was like, you know, why? So even in baby talk, my mom would be like, ¿Qué le hablas en español? And I'd be like, oh my God, okay. All I had in experience was my dogs, and I spoke to them, and they were my babies, and I spoke to them in English. So I started speaking to her in baby talk, and it just stayed that way. So we speak Spanish at home, so I've never spoken to her in English. And I feel when I'm around friends that speak English, I always have to like tell them, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to be rude. It's just that I don't know how to, I mean, if we're all speaking together, then yeah, but like for me to direct myself to her or her to me, it's always been in Spanish.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
And she's third generation?
She is, no, I was born in Mexico. I got here when I was 2 years old. So, I mean, I was pretty much raised here. So she'd be second generation, I guess, because I was, yeah.
Yeah, because statistically, like as generations go, we lose that language of origin.
Matter of fact, we're going to have another little episode speaking about this. Would you care to join us on it?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I might have my daughter peek in and see what she thinks about that.
Oh, that's
kind of cool.
That's great. That's great. Any other questions, Jaime?
Let's see. My famous question: what would be something that would that's about you that's most people would be surprised about to know?
Gosh, that's difficult because I put my whole life out there on Facebook. I put everything out there. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how long this will last, but I'm just gonna put this out there. I didn't want to put it on record. Screw it, whatever. I always put myself out there. So, mid last year, part of my healing process, I promised myself to be celibate, to not have any, obviously, sex.
Yeah.
Celibate. That's what it means. To not have sex
You
with.
know what that means.
Huh?
We know what that means.
Yeah. So, and that's actually because I wanted, there was a few women that reached out to me and they would just jump from one to the next and they don't know how to be alone. And I asked them, why don't you just try just really being alone? They're like, but without that, like, how am I going to, without that? I'm like, well, we can just do it together without it. Like, we're just going to not, wait,
Cold turkey.
That's interesting.
wait, not like that. Hold on.
No, you know, the fact that women are going without that, without having sex, you know, you'd almost think only guys would say something like that.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Oh, no, it happens. Trust me. But, but it was more for, you know, let's take the time to really just work on ourselves and really heal instead of just like, you know, well, I don't have anybody. And then you just, you know, randomly replace the one that you were with before. So it's more of that. So people that know that I'm spiritual and that I go to church, maybe they would be like, oh yeah. But other people, when they know that I'm like crazy and I'm all out there and I joke around a lot, they'd probably be like, really, Mia?
No way.
And that probably discourages a lot of men from wanting to date me anyway. I put it out there, and trust me, it's my game has went down a lot.
My game. Right. She's like, my unfriend list is high.
But yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying it's forever, but we had to do that. Yeah.
Just for now, or the guy's got to be something really special.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right on. So if people want to get a hold of you or be part of your organization, how can they contact you?
Yeah, well, they can look for me on Facebook. So it's Mia Perez, and I have different pages, but Mia Perez is the one that's the most active. If you see the one I post the most, that's the one. And then they can also get a hold of me through our Facebook page for Viva Women's Empowerment Community. I'm the one that answers all the messages there, so they can also do that, or they can email me, Mia Perez ENT, like enter Mia Perez ENT @gmail.com.
Right on. All right. Well, we really appreciate you being on and, you know, giving us your time. This was awesome. I mean, I was really informed, and I still want my invitation.
I'll take a Facebook Live. I'm good. No, Mia, thank you so much.
When we do a father's one, then we'll do that.
Thank you so much, Mia, for your time and for sharing a bit of your life. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I look forward to hopefully connecting with you guys again. Thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, there it is. So smash up those likes. Let us know anybody that wants to come on board. And if there's any questions or any subjects you want to know about, let us know. Until then, peace out.
Thank you, Mia.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Appreciate it. That was awesome.